Today's the day that we're going to be going over the Task A essay that I've been working on over the last few weeks. If you haven't seen the videos, I think it was 5 first parts. I did that last week as well. The first 5 parts of that series, click here and you can go in through and watch my prompt analysis, me write the introduction, then both of the body paragraphs and the conclusion of the argumentative essay that I've just written. Now, this essay that I've written is about 1,200 words, which is probably more than I'd write on the day because I've been working over it for numerous weeks. But today I want to go over it just to figure out where I can fix it up, hash out some of my ideas, and kind of show you guys a sort of finished product, at least as close as I'd like to get it to the quality that I'd like to submit in section 2 on the day. So if you want to see that, keep watching. I will be posting the completed essay in the Facebook group, which I'll link below. But other than that, let's get into it. Let's fix the essay up and see what we can make of it.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. A hard time if your motion is still. Then you move some things around because the lyrics is ill.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Kate Robson and I scored 80 in section 2 of the GAMSAT last year, and since then I've just been trying to help you guys to do the same thing. This, I think, writing essays for you guys and showing you how I do it is probably one of the most helpful ways to do it. But on this channel I try and post a mix of the theory content and teaching you how to actually write essays, and then also showing you. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff and you do enjoy this content, please feel free to hit that subscribe button if you are new here, and like this video to let me know that you liked it so that I can keep making content like this for you guys. Okay, so I've kind of set this all out. We've got our prompts, which was about technology, kind of like the purposes, the potentials, the power, and I kind of turned that into my own interpretation, the uses and power of technology, how technology has changed our world, how it's changed our identities, but I'm trying to argue that it hasn't necessarily changed our identity. My thesis was technology has changed our social structures, but it will never change what it means to be human, to think and feel. That's a fair enough thesis as a standalone thesis because it is proposing an argument. I'm kind of arguing two things. Number one, that it's never going to change what it means to be human. And then number two, what it means to be human is to think and feel. So it's kind of like a sub-argument within the argument. And that might be a little confusing, but I think it's kind of fair enough. It's strong, it's taking an opinion on something, it's not a fact. I'm proposing something, which is what a thesis should do. I think that's okay. I'm not too angry with that, but I think I also made it a little bit difficult for myself because arguing what it means to be human is quite difficult philosophically, because probably everyone has different ideas of what it means to be human. So I've had to argue what I think it means to be human, and I'm not sure I picked up on that straight away, even though I realize it now. The way that I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna read every paragraph through and we'll go through and edit it. We'll see where I could have improved on it and see what we can make of it. The introduction starts out with planes, trains, and automobiles. These were just the beginning. I like that because it's kind of like a, you know, a well-known phrase, planes, trains, and automobiles. I don't even know where that's from. And I've kind of like made this statement that is already hinting towards my thesis. These were just the beginning, these were just the beginning of the powers of technology, where technology came from and where it's going. The invention of the steam engine transformed our ability to migrate. The moon landing sparked inspiration for possible futures. The smartphone found a home on the bedside table. So I'm gonna highlight as well, I think, as I go, in just terms of like what my sentences are. So these, I think, these sentences are my hook, really. Then I say technology, a broad word for any machine created by humans to assist with a range of tasks, macro or nano, has formed the backbone of modern society. So I'm kind of using that as a definition, which is sort of going to be my context. Like, I'm introducing what technology actually is, at least how I'm defining it in this essay, which I think is always important to do. If you ever are stating something or your essay is centered around something, and it could be a word that's kind of contentious that has different meanings, it's always good to define it clearly in the early stages of your essay, like in the introduction. Like, you can define sociology, you can define technology, you can define a philosophical theory or something, but whatever it is, even if it's fairly simple, like dedicate a sentence to defining it so it's very clear what you mean. I think that like picks up points. Then I say, although technology has changed the social structures of Western democratic societies, particularly the rate of economic productivity, the normalcy of social relationships, and our capabilities as a species, it will not change the ontology of human existence to be conscious living beings capable of free thought, feelings, and action, akin to the philosophical theory of free will over determinism. Okay, so I think this is where we get to be a little bit tricky, because that's kind of my thesis, right? But it's also my points that make up the body 1 and body 2 paragraphs, which I think is what I kind of came across in the introduction video, that and I do this all the time accidentally, right? I accidentally make my thesis my points of my body 1 and body 2, whereas a thesis should be that standalone central argument, and your body 1 and body 2 should be points that kind of prove that overall central argument. Also, I wanted to point out one more thing here. I might have defined technology too largely. Sometimes it's better to just pick a subset or a subdomain or a subcomponent of something as big as technology, or if it's like the world, it's sometimes better to just pick one part of the world or one part of technology, so that your essay can be much more specific rather than trying to tackle everything about technology or about the world. And that might have been to my detriment, so I probably could have picked a certain type of technology, like even if I just said like everyday technology, personal technology for personal use, which then I could define as like computers, smartphones, iPads, whatever. And then it would have been more about the individual rather than about like everything. But my body paragraph 1, the point of that is also just about technology in general. So I'm not sure. It's a tricky one, but I would suggest to you, instead of trying to tackle everything, try and tackle one thing. So then I go, this is what separates us as a species. Separates us? I always get that wrong. This is what separates us as a species, and although it has given rise to a sense of species superiority, that humans are the superior species and defines our existence and our ability to produce technology in the first place. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting sentence, because I don't know if it really needs to be there. It feels like that should be also like a signpost sentence, like saying what I'm about to say, what I'm going to say in the essay, but I don't really talk about species superiority. It's kind of just an expansion on what I'm saying the ontology of human existence is. Although it's nice, you know, the whole species superiority thing, as I don't touch on it much later on in my essay, it probably shouldn't be there, because it kind of gives this sense of like false hope that I will be writing about that, which if I remember correctly, I don't. Okay, and then we get onto the thesis. So I say, technology has immense potential, but so long as it does not change the human essence, our status as free conscious beings, its potential will be limited to the essence unto which we provide it, the human essence. Okay, I think there's a problem with that, because it's kind of confusing. Like, its potential will be limited to the essence unto which we provide it. I probably could clear that up, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons that it's good to write your introduction last, because then you can, if you write your body 1, body 2, and conclusion first, you can really hash out what your thesis actually is and what you want to say. And sometimes it requires a bit of writing and a bit of thinking, whereas if you write your introduction first, you kind of have to make it up first and then write everything from that, rather than developing it throughout. So if I go down to the conclusion, I kind of ended it as the power of technology. We need to be aware of what the potentials of technology are, rather than the limits of its potential. So maybe I would change this to, but so long as it does not change the human essence, our status as free conscious beings. Maybe to that which we decide, we give it. Technology has immense potential, but so long as it does not change the human essence, our status as free conscious beings, its power will be limited to that which we allow. And so we must be very careful of what that will be. I guess now my argument, my thesis is saying that we should be a little bit more careful about what we want technology to be able to do, which perhaps is a little bit stronger, a little bit clearer, less trying to sound smart, like limited to the essence unto which we provide it. We didn't really know what that meant. And we'll go on to our second paragraph, which is our body paragraph 1. And I've started it off with my topic sentences. Technology has changed the world that we live in. The social structures of contemporary Western societies have been founded around the capabilities of technology to serve and assist us with a range of tasks. So, actually I think it keeps going. Technology has embedded itself so deeply within our everyday lives that on a macro scale it has significantly sped up the rate of productivity and our capabilities as a species, and on an individual level it has changed the structure of our social relationships and the methods by which we complete our everyday tasks. So if you look at that, like, that's kind of the topic sentence, which is probably a bit too long. In the exam room, I might not have that much time to be able to write that, nor is that really necessary. I could have probably said that a little bit more quickly, even though I've just kind of tried to introduce the topic and explain the topic sentence. So maybe I'll try and cut that down so it's actually a little bit better. Maybe like, the social structures of contemporary Western societies have been founded around technology, so much so that on a macro scale it has significantly sped up the rate of productivity and our capabilities as a species. And on an individual level, it has changed the structure of our social relationships and the methods by which we complete our everyday tasks. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Probably still a little bit too long, but I'll go with that for now. So then I go on to my example and I say, the Industrial Revolution was the catalyst for the formation of a new social life for humans living in Western democratic societies in the late 19th century, changing everything from where the majority of the British population lived, with most moving from the country into the city for work, to the importance of the family unit. So that's my description of my example. It's kind of me just introducing the topic of the Industrial Revolution. I think that's a good amount of time. It's specific. I've got a time. I've got a place, Western democratic societies, Britain. I've described it. I've been specific. I've said what that thing is. I'm pretty happy with that. Then I go on to explain it and analyze it. The invention of the steam engine sparked a new era, realizing new potentials for the human species to be able to move around and trade goods and services locally, and the increasing the size of social circles within Europe. Okay, then I keep going. Contemporary Western societies have developed out of these potentials, developing these technologies to assist us with any task, from seeing a relative who lives overseas, to solar-powered cars and biotechnological chips, to solve neural pathologies. It's quite specific. But that's kind of my analysis. See how I kind of go from like how one thing led to another. That's kind of like how I do my analysis. Talking about just the consequences of one thing and another, and what that means and why, and blah blah blah, really getting to the bottom of it. Then I go on to talk about the counter example. Certainly one's experience with technology is heavily dependent on where one lives, the political freedom of one's society, and any other cultural or religious restrictions. Then I go on to confirm my argument, but the majority of the West and now the East is heavily reliant on technology for social progress, communication, and everyday tasks. So that's kind of like all in one. And then I go into my linking sentence. I say, surely the common habit of individuals sleeping next to their phone is enough to prove that technology is really changing how we operate in our daily lives. But will it change who we are in our essence? So that's kind of like my argument, linking back to restating my argument, which is about the potentials of technology. And then I'm saying, I'm kind of like leading on to the next point, which is that will it change our essence or not? Oh my god, this paragraph is massive. I'm just realizing that. That is probably like too long for a GAMSAT essay. But anyway, let's see if we can cut it down. So I say, although technology has changed much about the human species and the ways in which we socialize and operate, it cannot change the ontology or raison d'etre, okay queen, of human existence, to think and to feel without altering our fate as a species. Okay, it's a bit long, but it's not bad. I suppose it's quite clear. Although technology has changed much about the human species and the way in which we socialize and operate, it cannot change the ontology or raison d'etre, maybe like raison d'etre, of human existence, to think and to feel without altering our fate as a species. This is where the argument gets a bit difficult. It's a little bit too philosophical. It's a bit, maybe not too philosophical, but not developed enough philosophically. And I probably should have written an argument that I felt a little bit more certain about, a little bit more sure about. But I've gone with something that is difficult to argue with my limited experience in the study of philosophy. So what I will take away from this is that I might steer clear of like such philosophical arguments being the center of my essay unless I feel more comfortable with them. But I tried, and that's good too. Okay, let's just keep on reading and see what happens. The human capability of consciousness is, that we know of, unique to humans on this planet. And this defines us as a species. Our bodies are uniquely human indeed, but what separates us as a species is our ability to freely think and feel. So I would say that's also a topic sentence, which could be taking too much time. Then I say technology has not changed this, but if it does, I'm not sure we can call ourselves human anymore. So this is showing that, like, the fact that this is the topic sentence shows that honestly, if it takes you more than like 2 sentences to explain your point, it's probably too complex for a paragraph. Or maybe it just shows I didn't really understand it that well. And although like they're nice as sentences, it's probably where I could cut it down and try and say it in a little bit more of a shorter space of time. But anyway, I'll just move on for the sake of getting on with it. So I go into my example and I say the philosophical theory of free will is in opposition to that of determinism. The free will theory argues that we as humans are capable of determining our own actions and that we are in control of our fate. Whereas the determinism theory argues the opposite, that our fate has been determined for us and that we have no choice in the matter, i.e. we are merely puppets in someone else's show, God perhaps. Okay, that's not bad. Talking about philosophical theories that I actually know about, kind of. Analysis, if the free will theory is correct, we as humans are able to think and act freely and are capable of making our own decisions and creating our own fates. This means that technology, although it has changed much about how we operate, would have to alter our ability to think and act freely to truly change our essence, ridding us of free will. If we have free will and technology changed that, say by making us like robots incapable of free thought guided by computed instructions, we would lose the essence of our being and what distinctly defines our species. Okay. Essentially, if technology removed our ability to think free thoughts and feel emotions, our fate as a species would be altered. Okay, so that's my analysis. And honestly, it's a bit confusing. I think it's cool that I've tried to talk about this all, but like I said, it's such a philosophical argument that it's taken me a while to explain it, and I don't know if that's a good thing. That's probably why this paragraph is so long. So I go on to say, one could argue that our fate has been altered already in such a social change caused by technology, or that our species is headed for such a science fictional proposition, we all become robots and technology takes over, but we must recognize how this would change humanity's ontological definition. If technology takes over and humans completely lose our ability to think or to feel, our sense of species superiority, okay, so I do talk about species superiority, that's the example, that we are the superior species, which has caused problems in animal rights communities and enlarged our sense of authority over our planet's cohabitants, will be abolished, turning the fate of our planet on its head. Okay, that's like kind of reconfirming. Then I say, I suppose this is the benefit of science fiction novels and films. The future of our planet is uncertain, although I'm sure climate activists have some ideas, and technology holds such great potential. But if technology strips our ability to think, are our bodies enough to define our species? I think not. Okay, look, overall, the reason that paragraph was so long is because I took a while to explain my point and I was a bit confused about my point. So moral of the story is, pick a point that you understand yourself so that it's easier to explain it to someone else. I've made a strong attempt here, but like such an essay, such a point would probably cause issues in my actual GAMSAT essay if I had to write it on the spot. So I guess just pick something that you feel comfortable with, that you actually believe in, that you're sure about, and notice that as you're coming up with your points in your plan, because if you embark on something too difficult really to do justice, then it might rub off the wrong way. I'll leave one at that, and we'll just quickly read the conclusion and then finish up. So I say, epistemologically, we cannot know where technology will take us. I think that's okay, But like, here's an example of, you know, you don't necessarily have to use such words that sound smart. Prime example of me just wanting to sound smart when I could have just said that and had it be stronger. We cannot know where technology will take us. Technology has brought us to places we once before only dreamed of, as it will likely continue to do so. However, the raison d'etre of humanity is to think, to feel, and to consciously experience, and technology takes this away from us, the definition of humanity will be changed, as will the fate of this planet. Okay, so I say, I'm restating my points here. Then I go on to, I think, say the importance of my points. Whether we like it or not, humanity has played a central role in the evolution of our planet. This may not be the case for the universe or even our solar system, but being aware of the significant potential that technology has had and continue to have on our species may allow a metaphysical awareness. Like, that's a bit of fluff, you know. Let's just get rid of these words that make us sound smart but actually come across as a bit pretentious. May allow an awareness necessary to recognize, see, because I focused on sounding smart, I've just written a sentence that like doesn't really make that much sense. You know, being aware of the significant potential of technology may allow an awareness necessary to recognize the potentials of technology. It just doesn't make sense. I focused on trying to sound smart, ditched the clarity. So instead, being aware of the significant potential that technology has had and continues to have may allow an awareness of where technology has the capacity to take us. Good or bad, moral or immoral. And to alter this as we see fit, and to take control of this as we see fit. Maybe that's a bit clearer. Okay, the power of technology, good or evil, may be mostly solely explored in science fiction stories, but scholars, tech companies, and individuals alike ought to take on this responsibility as well. Okay, so that's all kind of like talking about the importance of the topic, the potential of technology. And then I discussed the limitations. We might not all agree on where technology can or should take us, as our ideas of morality, ethics, and the future will naturally differ, right? Then I finish it off with my final like call to action. But the agency with which we analyze the situation with technology may be the very tool that has the potential to save us or destroy us. Okay, I think I found my way there in the conclusion in the very end. And what I think this essay would have benefited from is writing the introduction last, because I would have become a bit clearer about what my thesis and my points actually were. And that might have saved some confusion later on. So all in all, it's definitely offered some quality of ideas and the structure is pretty sound too, but I think I've tried to write about ideas that are a little bit too complex for my little brain and ones that I just haven't thought about enough in depth. So it was difficult to put that on the page and express it clearly here, which is fine. But for me, it teaches me that, like, yes, I know some good examples and I can write well, but if I don't understand my idea, it'll be very difficult to explain that idea. So from now on, I'm going to make sure that I'm very crystal clear about what my idea actually is before I start writing, so that I save some of that pain and trouble later on. Okay, so that's it. I hope you found that helpful. I didn't end up changing it too much or making it perfect, but hopefully me going through it has kind of helped you see how you should go through your own essays, how you can critique your own essays, where you might go wrong with your essays to help you avoid some of the mistakes that I've made in this one. But overall, I'm fairly happy with this. You know, like, this turned out pretty well. I came up with a fairly solid idea, even though it was a bit confusing. The structure's good, I'm pretty happy with that. The length, a bit too long, but that's not too bad. That's because I've written it over 4 weeks as well. So yeah, overall, fairly happy with it. I think it's a fairly good quality. I'm not sure what kind of mark it would get. It's kind of difficult to judge my own essay. But yeah, hope that helped. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next video very soon.
So girls, move it around. If you see your main dog, get the brother a pound and just come on, just breathe, stop, for real, and give it what you got, just